Hi, good to see you.
Right.
John Lee, St. Louis Real Estate Investors Association. Today is Friday, December 22nd. Hope everybody's ready for the holidays. If not, you got like another couple of days, but one more meeting this year, and then we'll one more Friday networking, and then that's it for the year. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. I don't really have too much to say. Lloyd, do you have anything you want to say before we get going here?
No. I just want to say, yeah, John's got a great some great programs lined up for January and February already. So looking forward to those and getting the new year kicked off on a good start in January. January was it 16th? Yeah, it comes pretty early since the new year starts on a Monday. The third Tuesday comes around pretty quick on the 16th of January. So looking forward to seeing folks there. Um, No, so before we get started, Laura, you want to go ahead and give our disclaimers?
Sure. Good morning and welcome, everyone. First, I'd like to do a bit of housekeeping. Feel free to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. Please be mindful of everyone else by muting yourself while others are speaking. You are welcome to put any contact information that you want to share into the chat. We meet here to share deals, look for deals and solutions we have in need with our real estate. We are not your financial advisors, attorney, or accountants. We do not endorse or recommend any specific solution or contractors here. You are advised to do your own due diligence to your own satisfaction before you invest. The first Friday of each month is Ask the Attorney with Ms. Catherine Davis. Our meetings are typically recorded, so only share what you want others to know.
Okay, thank you, Laura. And I don't know who wants to kick it off today. This is our networking portion. If you have something to sell, some real estate to sell, or you're looking to buy something, might have somebody on here that has got something they're willing to part with. Or any real estate related services. Or you got a question for anybody? We always have a lot of many years of experience of landlording and real estate investing here gathered together on Friday. If you got a question for her, just could throw it out to the crowd. We might have somebody that's been there and done that already and can share their life experiences with you. That's what I feel that's the biggest thing I have to offer is just my own life experiences. Learn from my mistakes, and so you don't step in the same hole that I did in the past. So
That's the best learning, though, is when the things don't go right. Because when it
yes,
goes right, you
yeah.
don't think about it twice usually.
In fact, that's why I enjoyed your book, Fred, when I read it, John.
Yeah.
I can relate to a lot of the similar things that I had done.
Yeah, failed real estate deals. That's what happens a lot. That's for sure.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, some of the best investments I probably made were ones that I just walked away from, I think.
Yeah, I had an appraiser tell me that years ago, back in the late 90s. It was a guy we used all the time. Emerson Sutton was his name. He was a great appraiser, and he would tell us a lot of inside stuff. But something that always stuck with me is he would say a lot. Some of the best deals you do are the ones you don't do. The appraisal's the cheap part. You can walk away from that thing right
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
And I know inspections
Appraisal
the same way. A lot of people don't want
inspections.
to do
Yeah, I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of inspections. They, I think always I've the inspection has at least paid for itself. And I can think of usually there's always something like, oh, found some slight termite damage. Oh, well, hey, you're gonna have to spend 900 and get Rottler over and give you $950 or $1,000 now, probably over $1,000 these days
Yep.
for termite treatment. And so you just say you put that back to the seller to deduct from the sale price, and you move forward. And that paid for a $500 inspection right there, plus.
Yeah, I learned a lot
Mhm.
about termites from an inspector, actually, and from Rattlers in particular, a house we bought down in Farmington many years ago, and it was all eaten up, the hardwood floors. And one of the things I found out that I didn't know is they have to go down and, it has to do with moisture, but they have to go down and get a drink every day
Every
and then
day.
come back and live in the woods. So
Mhm.
very interesting. And there's so many different ones too. And there's something like, 20 different kinds of termites or something in our area. It's like a whole bunch of them.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize that there are that many. And I know there are around the world, but I didn't realize there are that many different varieties right here in our neighborhood.
I learned more about termites than I ever cared to, but that was one of those $1,000
Mhm.
educations that probably saved me 20,000 or even more.
Mhm.
So well worth the while. And
Yep.
I know we talked about having maybe Pete coming back this year, who's an inspector. He's been with us for many years and he's very knowledgeable too. So that's something we may want to have him come back in, and we'll have to figure out when that's going to be and let
Yeah,
him talk about more about that kind of stuff with inspections.
sure. Yeah. All of the prep work that you need to do. Like I said, that probably the best one inspection I had that had more than paid for itself was we went in. It was in a condo. Um, as it turned out, the condo had a fire because and my inspector figured out I hadn't crawled up in the attic. He crawled up in the attic and saw all the underside of the roof painted, and it said, nobody does that unless they're sealing. It's been damaged in a fire, and they're sealing up the smell in it. And so then when we turned on the water, in fact, he taught me something. I usually, I turn on the water and then I run upstairs and I run around looking for leaks. We turned it on for about 15 or 20 seconds, turned it off, and then we went up and looked for a leak. So the leak didn't get that big. And sure enough, there was some water dripping out of a light fixture up in the laundry room. You can imagine that from just turning on the water a little bit. And so he knew something about, I guess, especially after he had seen that knew there was a fire, just to make sure that everything had been fixed properly after the fire. And it turned out it had not. It was one of those deals that actually it was a VA had been repossessed or foreclosure. It was a VA foreclosure. And whether it was a VA that didn't pay for properly being restored, or the previous owner that couldn't sell it because of issues caused by the fire. And I looked at all the VA. The problem is I looked through the VA paperwork. It was solid. There was no negotiation. When you want, the inspection is purely for your own gratification. And so the only option I had was to walk away from it. And that I thought I was getting a pretty good deal, but I noticed after I walked away from it, that good deal sat on the didn't actually sell for another 6 or 8 months, and it was a hot market. So they probably went through the same routine with a couple other investors that looked at it and didn't think, oh, yeah, it's a good price. Let's go and jumped in it, and they finally sold it. Hopefully, they didn't take somebody for a ride, but yeah, that was definitely probably the most valuable inspection I had.
Well worth the money, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I walked away from it and moved on.
Mhm. Yep, you got to look behind the wall sometimes and see
Or
the
up
real
and up in the
deal.
attic, yeah, definitely up in the attic. So,
Hmm.
and that would have been a big because it was already freshly painted and everything finished off. So to fix a water leak that was between the stories it was a townhouse. It was coming in on the second floor, and there was a third floor above it. Um, so you'd have to tear into the walls and ceilings or whatever else to find where the leak was coming from.
That was a foreclosure, you said, a VA
Yeah,
foreclosure?
yeah, it was a VA foreclosure.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah, considering the regulation in Missouri about that if there's something wrong with the house and you're selling it, you're supposed to tell somebody. Of course, people supposedly get away with it and say, "Well, I didn't know." Um, is something like that where the FHA supposedly, if they know about it, they're supposed to tell potential buyers? Do you have any ideas about that?
I don't know. Apparently, the VA is not required to, or they didn't think it was an issue.
Yeah, it just seems like there's if you go in, for example, say you're the first potential buyer and you go in and find something like that, and you say, "Did you know that there's a leak in between the first floor and the second floor
Yeah,
at the
I
light
would
fixture?
think once there's an inspection and the seller is aware of it, they should be required to make any future people aware of it and be
Yeah,
able to share that
it would seem
information.
logical, but
Yeah,
logic is
yeah. Well, in
hard
fact,
to find.
it was almost like this particular one, it was almost like they were trying to hide something because there was they said, oh, well, the water is off because there was a leak underneath the sink in the main floor half bath. And so maybe I do all my own repairs anyway. So when I had my inspector over, I took my toolbox in. We looked underneath the sink, and I don't forget what I did. I either fixed the leak or shut off the valve there underneath the sink there, so it wasn't going to leak there. And before I did that before he turned the water on, and then there was still water leak. That was like it's almost like that was just they were trying to disguise the water leak by saying, oh, there's an issue underneath this sink, and that's the reason the water's turned off. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure with VA what their disclosures are, but I'm not so sure that that's a state law because I know we've bought and sold, in fact, most of the properties with no disclosures. You're on your own to get your own inspection. And I think that's a realtor law that they try to do it to keep them
oh,
from getting sued.
yeah,
And I've bypassed them even with a lot of realtors. We just say, that's because I've been presented deals like that, and I say that's the way we want to sell them because I don't know. Most of the time we have not lived there.
no,
And the people we're buying them from not always have lived there. So, I mean, you can only say, like you said, now if you're covering up with paint, that might be an obvious, thing to look at.
yeah.
If it's, I don't, freshly painted things are always suspect when it's an investment, when nobody's lived there. But, other than that, you just have to check it out. But I don't know about the laws. That'd be something that we may want to check into.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Yeah, I think I think that's a realtor guideline as far as um, disclosing. Yeah, generally when I've sold properties on my own, I don't offer any disclosure unless I'm selling through a realtor. Then I'll fill out the information. I'll check the box that says I've never lived here, and or if there's been tenants in there, I just explain that it's been a rental in the disclosure. So and I do and I explain what I know, things I had any issues with, but I've always fixed the issues before I put it on the market. So, but anyway,
Yeah, like John said, that may be a realtor law. I'd heard it for 30 or 40 years that you're supposed to tell people. So I was thinking it was a Missouri law, but it may be a realtor law to protect the rear ends of the realtor people. And then if you say, well, it's as is, then do you totally get rid of the burden of the seller? I think that's an added question. I don't know if that works that way. So most people have just started to say, well, it's as is. so you don't have to deal with telling anybody if there's something wrong. Don't know.
Well, yeah, and even when if it's listed on the MLS, and a lot of those say as is, seller will make no repairs. They know there's repairs to be made. They're just letting you know that you're going to have to negotiate that all ahead of time because they're not going to make any concessions for repairs. No, you need to go in with your eyes wide open and ready to make an inspection. But yeah, also, I was just before I got on here, I was looking at my email, and I'm on the emails from a lot of wholesalers, and there was one that a wholesaler said, almost finished rehab, or I mean, you've seen too many. I see a few of those. Oh yeah, the demo's work has been all done. And this particular one, I think it was in Pine Lawn. It said it had had drywall done, had the bathrooms renovated. It just needed some paint and floor and some kitchen installation. So it probably means the kitchen was just still gutted. And they realized they got a bid for putting in the kitchen cabinets and realized, oh my gosh, I ran out. He said basically he ran out of money. He said rehabber ran out of money. And I was hoping Kerry was going to be on this morning. I was going to tell her that he needed to consult New Frontier Bank before he started that renovation and got his line of credit lined up, because I know that that's what I do when I was expanding my portfolio back years ago. I went to New Frontier and he had, of course, I already had a number of properties that I was renting and had been paid off already. So I use those as collateral for a line of credit to make my new purchases plus the rehab. And then once I had finished the purchase and rehab, they came in with they sent their appraiser over and, appraised it and lent on 80% of the appraised value. And then that always got my money repaid from the line of credit to start over again. So anyway, yeah, I was hoping Kerry would get a laugh out of that one, so would have avoided that. Anybody else had any experiences like that, or anything else that you can share from your years of investing?
You're talking about funding. That's been a big subject lately because people do seem to run out of money. And you brought up a good point there, Lloyd, that you can use existing properties and things for collateral. A lot of times people don't have collateral when they're first starting, though, and funding is a big thing, even for like wholesalers. And one of the things I've noticed in some of the groups we're in is people don't know how to ask for the money. And that's something we've kind of worked on a little bit this last week. And in fact, if anybody's interested in that, we could probably touch on that a little bit more next week on funding, because it's kind of a down week, but we have a couple people. So I could put some stuff together. There's a certain way you present stuff to people with a lot of money to make it interesting. And it's real quick. It's like a 3 to 5 minute presentation or less. So if anybody's interested in that, maybe just say so in the chat or just send me an email or something, and I'd be happy to share that with you, because we've been working on funding, because that always seems to be the problem, is people run out of money. And what I found is there's more than enough money for everything, but it's got to be a good deal first of all. And a lot of people don't know how to get good deals. I mean, if you just run out there and find something on the MLS that's been there for a while, it's not always a good deal. And like you said, Lloyd, especially if it's been sitting there, there's a reason usually. And most of the good deals don't get to the MLS. I mean, that's, we've seen some of that here on our Friday group. And, here that people bring stuff and they look for stuff and find off-market deals. The hardest part's doing it. And, honestly, most people don't want to do the work. They want to buy a list and then just go off of that and hire a virtual assistant. I see especially a lot of new people coming into the business doing that. And that's really not the best way, at least that I've seen over the years. The best way is just, sit there and talk to the people and figure out how to solve their problem. I know I see Eric sitting there and he's kind of smiling. He's a good problem solver when it comes to that kind of stuff too. But you got to kind of look, kind of like what we talked about, look behind the scenes a little bit and just see how to, see what their situation is. And I still think this is one of the best times of years to find that kind of stuff. While a lot of people are down and not doing, maybe this is their off time, I think it's one of the best times to make it your up time, because you can solve a lot of problems for a lot of people this time of year when they don't have a solution. And a lot of people get kind of down when they don't have, maybe they don't have enough, enough money for their, for their holidays, or they don't think they do. They don't have a solution for the real estate in particular, because real estate can cause, we all got to live somewhere. So, but there's also a lot of problems that go with it. And if you don't have the money to fix it, or you don't know what to do, you need somebody like one of us sitting here that can maybe look at the whole situation and solve it for you. So, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. There's a couple of people interested in, maybe we'll do that next week. I'll put together a little thing. I've been talking to people about funding. So, and Carrie can do traditional stuff, and yeah, she's not here today, but that's your best bet, is if you can go there first, somewhere like her. But there's a lot of people that need off market funding, basically. So we'll talk about that more next week.
Yeah. Well, I remember my first investment property, I was looking for a two-family. I had enough saved up for a two-family, but my realtor, I had a real go-getter. He found me two families right next door to each other. They were both a great buy. And so I said, wow, gosh, I got to double my down payment. I went and talked to my big brother, and He said, well, yeah, I'll lend you that. If if I could hold a note on on the house I was living at, was free and clear because I couldn't get anybody else to finance it anyway. It was still under rehab while I was living there. So I did that and I borrowed half the down payment. And then to finance, I think I just went to a regular bank and somehow or another, I got a signature loan because I put in one of the first things I did was put in new furnaces, or upgraded the furnaces to air conditioning, put in central air. That was the expensive upgrade I made there. The rest of it was just painting and carpeting and wallpaper. That was big back in the 70s. Back and the property's cash flowed so well, it paid off. It paid back that signature loan within a year or two. And then while I sold the properties after 2 years and made for 50% more than what I purchased them for. So that proved to me that this real estate stuff is real. You can unfortunately, I had a good job that I liked. And I know Jen Duke says on her first deal, she turned around, she made more money than she did in her day job. And so she quit her day job. So on that deal, I made more money than I made the last 2 years in my day job, but I still didn't quit my day job. But yeah, you can like both your day job and your real estate investing, the career. Like that's what I've done.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Lloyd, because there's a lot of people, you see a lot of people out there teaching real estate classes and things like that. And a lot of them focus on quitting your day job, but there's a lot of people like you that I consider like part-timers because you got a full-time job, but the real estate's a real deal. And yeah, you could make more than your regular job, but maybe you like it. I mean, there's a lot of, in fact, we have a lot of engineers in our group. They like their job. They don't want to leave it. They just want to do something else, maybe not necessarily as a hobby, but something else to, maybe supplement their retirement and add to what you're doing anyway. And it gives you a lot of satisfaction too. I mean, so there's a lot of people that are, just like that. And then I think a lot of us turn into lifetimers anyway. Eventually, once we get the bug and get the passion for it, we're just stuck with it and we can't do anything else.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, when are you going to retire? It's like, retire from what? You know? I mean, this is just the way we live.
You love what you're doing. Yeah. How are you going to get away from it? Huh? So, yeah, that's true. A lot of engineers we're used to being problem solvers. And so this is having investing in real estate is just another means of having another set of problems to solve. And I know there's a lot of people. I worked at McDonnell Douglas and the Boeing company. A lot of engineers there, you're kind of tied to a hand because our manufacturing areas were all union, and so they don't let you get your hands dirty, even if you want to get your hands into something to solve a problem. You gotta stand over somebody else and tell them what they need to do to fix the issue. Whereas, I worked with a bunch of guys one time that they were all they were all motorheads, and they were all either restoring an old car or fixing up a hot rod in their evenings in their garage, just because they wanted to get their hands dirty, and so that was my outlet for getting my hands dirty, was my real estate investing, going in and doing the rehab myself on Saturdays and Sundays and after hours. So kept me out of trouble. I used to say it kept me out of the bars at night. So,
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of problems to solve with some of the rehabs and the things you run into. That's for sure. And I like the way you said too, when you started, you lived in a duplex working on it too, because I think you can learn a lot from doing that just by being there on scene instead of just going over there on the weekends, things like that, because you're right there with it. So I think you learn a lot more.
I just thought it was a smart way of investing, and nowadays they've got a term for it called house hacking, where you're living in one of your rentals.
Yeah, that term I personally don't like, because hacking just insinuates stealing, in my opinion. And I know it's not meant like that, but it just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a little slimy, in my opinion. I guess is a good way to put it. But that's exactly what it is. You just get in there, and if you can live on the scene, you can find out so much more than if you just go over there and treat it like an investment only.
Sure. And you get preferential financing too. You can finance up to 4 units with FHA financing, or even the in a normal conventional financing will do.
Yeah, actually, that was who was that? That was it Blake a week or two ago, a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago, was talking
Yeah.
about that too, because we brought up the FHA financing, and that's one of the major advantages is you can live there. And I don't know what the rule is, but I know I've seen people move out, and I think it might be a 3 year. Then you can get another FHA loan if it's owner occupied. So I mean, there's things you can do to do that. Now, the one thing I did notice, I know on some of the ones I've had, is the PMI or MIP, the insurance. And so if you put less than 20% down, they have that insurance that you're a lot of times, I think you're forced to buy it, or it's just part of the requirements with FHA. But once you get under 80% loan to value, then you can drop that. I know my first FHA loan, they would not let me do that, no matter how, where I was at. And I was down to maybe 30% LTV, loan to value, and they would not let me drop it. The only way I could get rid of it is refinance it. But I know they've changed the laws since then, and I don't know what they are now, but that's something, you can knock off that $60 a month or whatever it is on, and, just, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I've heard on that. You just need to, once you get your loan paid down to that level, you need to send a letter in. They don't automatically do that, or they don't automatically renew it. You need to send a letter in to have that PMI removed from your loan. And that's something that a lot of people probably don't know about. They don't tell you, because that helps fund the PMI loan coffers that for everybody else. But
yeah, I funded them for a few extra years I didn't know about.
Yeah, and
I finally one day was looking at my stuff saying, "Oh, what is this?" And I called them up, and they said, "No, there's no way to get rid of it." But that was back then. I know since then it's different.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's changed since then.
and I think you can actually even get an appraisal, because I know in the last, actually the last couple years, I just seen a stat where the average home in the United States was 220, and now it's like 330 over the last 3 years.
Oh yeah.
So if you just go and you want to pay for an appraisal, it may cost you $600 or $1,000. I don't know what, depending on your situation, but that might be well worth the money to just to show them, because an FHA loan takes if you got a 30-year loan, you don't even get the halfway point for 15 years of what you paid on your principal. Now there's ways to do it with all that, but that's one of the things where if you just get an appraisal, your new value, you could actually make it look very favorable and maybe drop that. And if it's, $60, $80, whatever it might be, it doesn't seem like a lot per month, but add that to your principal, and that you'll pay your loan off sometimes in half the time just by adding $50 to $100 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big difference.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same thing with talk about PMI insurance with flood insurance. I had one of my rentals had to pay flood insurance because it was in a floodplain, according to whatever the title company's survey, and it turned out, and depending on which map you looked at, it was either the map I liked was one that said it was just in the one corner of the lot, and not where the house was, in one corner of the backyard. Yeah, but I put off doing it for years until the flood insurance, the rates got so ridiculous. It was like, okay, I guess this, and I knew he had to pay for like a survey to be done. And so I investigated that and found out you need a letter of map revision or map amendment, LOMA, letter of map amendment to the floodplain maps. And you have to have a survey, a professional survey company. So I called the survey company that I know had done all the subdivision that was right behind me. So they should have had all the first-hand data right on their own files. So there was a swale from a subdivision right behind me. I'm sure they had all that laid out, and they knew exactly where the floodplains were there. They came out, and I think it cost $900 back when I did that. But right off, when I got that letter of map amendment, that sure enough, it's right. It's only that one corner was in the floodplain. I canceled my flood insurance and did away with it, and that paid for itself. I had been paying for a number of years. If I would have done a couple of years earlier, I would have saved myself that $900. Well, in the first year.
We still have one like that right now, Lloyd. It's in the 500-year floodplain, and we could not get the revision like you're talking about, because it had something to do with the city. and they weren't going to change FEMA's map or whatever it was, even though this house is never flooded. And it got expensive. It started off at like $300 a year, then it went up to like 1,000 and something. The last time I looked at it, it was a few years ago, it was like $2,800. And that was like a deal breaker in the neighborhood. Well, I just kind of let it go, and they gave us forced insurance on it, but their flood insurance with the mortgage company is only like $24 a month. So I just let them renew that
Oh
every
my
year.
gosh, yeah.
And it's like night and day on the difference. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll pay you, and it only covers the loan, but I don't care about that, because I mean, I have homeowners for
Yeah.
my other stuff, and maybe it wouldn't, it wouldn't cover a flood. But if this place floods, the whole city of Ferguson's going to be underwater. I mean, it's going to flood the railroad tracks that are up high, on a elevator there. So I mean, it was like one of those things, and at first it wasn't no big deal, but it turned out to be a big deal, 10 years down the road, because I just got, and I don't even know what it would cost now. That was a few years ago.
Well, yeah.
And I pay my $24 and let them renew it every year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that definitely would have been a better idea. I didn't even think to try that strategy. But what did I start to say? Oh yeah, if you really look at what flood insurance covers, have you read the details on it? They don't cover much, if anything. If you it might cover a furnace and a water heater that are you got located in the basement. But if you got a fixed a finished basement, you're out of luck with that. You're gonna have to redo your refinished basement again, and any of the damage to the if you had carpeting or flooring and the walls, none of that's covered.
Yeah,
So,
it reminds me kind of like earthquake insurance. I know I always thought that was a good idea, but if you really look at what it covers, you got like a 10% deductible for
yeah.
each item or each thing, and it
Mhm.
just it's up to where it's
No.
not going to pay anything.
No.
And they keep going up every year. So I don't know. You just got to really look. Yeah, your insurance, you think you're covered until you have a claim a lot of times. And it's always a good idea to know, but unless you got somebody you can really work with, they're not going to necessarily tell you that because
Yeah.
they may not know.
Mm-hmm. No, in fact, that particular property I bought, it was not disclosed. The realtor hadn't disclosed it. It wasn't until I think it was about a month or so after we closed, the title company, I guess the underwriters finally brought this to the surface and said, "Oh, hey, you need to have title insurance, or you didn't have flood insurance." And holy cow! And by then, I had already done my rehab on it. I had a renter in the house, so I wasn't going to back out of the deal. So. I went ahead and put flood insurance on. Like I said, it wasn't that big a deal at the time, but after years of paying a mortgage, it added up. But
Looks like we got a question from James McLean. Can you unmute yourself, James? You want to know managing a person's real estate? Are you talking about a company, or what's your question there? Maybe you can unmute. I know Stacy and Dave Soto, a lot of times they're here and they do property management. If you're looking for somebody to manage your property, I would suggest maybe them.
yeah, it's a good place to start. At least you get a
My
an
my
idea.
question was, can you have your sister manage your property? I thought there was a line that they have to draw between management. You'd have to be part of the household. I don't know anymore. Can't remember.
Oh, I'm probably not the best one to answer that question legally.
Yeah,
Because-
I can't. I've heard different things that anybody could do it, or you had to be a licensed realtor. I've heard both things, and I'm not sure which is correct.
Are you paying her, James?
No.
No, is she living in the house? Is it like
No.
a duplex, a multifamily, or you just want her to manage it without paying her?
Yes. Well,
I think you can
she
do
probably
that.
gonna want some money. You're right. She probably want. I'm not paying her, but I'm thinking about it. She'll probably want some money, and that would only be fair.
Well, now if you're paying her like a management company and that's the title, that you may have some some things you need to make sure of. If you're gonna, now there's other things to do. She could do, she could just be, and I don't want to get too far off in the weeds, but you can do
Yeah.
consulting fees and all kinds of stuff. You might want to check into that though. It just depends on the situation. And that might be a really good question for Catherine Davis. She normally is here first Friday of the month. She will not be, I think, until the 2nd this next week, because she's going on a cruise, a holiday cruise. And she just said, adios, we'll see y'all later. So when she comes back, she'll be rested. That'd be a good question for her. In the meantime, I don't know though, if you're not going to pay her, that's one thing, but the otherwise, I would maybe want to be safe. Then again, you're probably not setting up, she's not going to manage a whole lot of properties, or if she is, then you may want to get her licensed. I don't know.
Yeah.
From
I
what
had- Go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say, from what I heard, and like I said, I don't know, for somebody to show a property to get a new tenant in there, they had to be a licensed realtor. But I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I heard. But I've heard both ways. So yes, the answer is Kathy Davis would probably be a good place to start.
Yeah, I called the real estate board, and I didn't get nothing but a lot of switch you this way, switch you that way. And if you want to hear this message over again, I'll start it over again. Just hang on. Or you can't talk to anybody in Jefferson City. Oh my goodness. Wow. I just want to answer a simple question. I thought that was the right, that was the right place to ask.
Yeah, well, okay, I probably shouldn't say this, but I had my sister manage properties. I lived out of the country for a couple of years, and my sister and brother-in-law managed our properties. I think I'd already found a tenant for them, so I did the showing before I left the country. But I didn't really pay them. I just I gifted, since we were leaving the country, I didn't need all our cars to go. And they weren't worth storing, the used cars that I drive. So I gifted one of our cars to my sister. And for that, she and her husband managed our properties for 3 years. So, and you really have to think about what the implications are. As long as they had experience as landlords before, they had their own rental property, and they're experienced at it, and they know the rules and the regulations of what's required. And I did probably a little more education over from my own experience before we did it. But and you gotta think about that. That's the only time you're gonna run into an issue, if somebody complains about it. If you're not treating your tenant well, and the tenant complains to the property manager, and they has to get, and it gets elevated or something, that's the only time you're gonna run into an issue. You might run into an issue that I could think of.
It's kind of funny you couldn't get the answer, James, from the real estate commission, because it just reminded me of many years ago. I was taking all the education. I was going to be a broker back in the 90s. And there was a lot of things that I ran into, and I questioned them several times. I actually talked to the commissioner. I can't remember her name. And she could not tell me a lot of things. And what I finally came up with, or what she finally told me flat out, is I can work on a commission. I mean, I can work on profit. I can sell and buy on profit, but I cannot work on commissions. I cannot pay or accept a commission unless I was a licensed broker or realtor. And by doing that changes all the rules. So what I chose to do was not do that and just work as an investor. So that was one of the aha moments for me, but that was dealing directly with the commissioner. And I had, during my trainings, I had several conversations with her. I mean, it went on for a couple of months, and they couldn't even give me a good answer. So I wouldn't worry too much about not getting the answer you want, but I would definitely find out on my own what's correct for you.
So as long as you don't call it a commission, you're okay, right? You can call it a fee or a profit, or say it, it's going to be this amount, but it's not a commission.
That's what I understood, and that's what I
Yeah.
use to this day. We do not work on commissions at all. We work on profit.
Yeah, that's a good
So,
Good guideline to keep in mind. Yeah. Real estate investors don't take commissions. We don't charge
and,
commissions.
and that would probably be a good thing for Dan Bryan, because I know he works as an investor and as a broker, and depending on what the deal is he's doing, because he's one I've learned a lot of stuff from over the years. As far as that goes, because he keeps his broker's license, he's also got contractor licenses. So, he would probably be the one to talk to on that.
Yeah, he's got experience on both many aspects of investing. So you can get him on one of these Fridays here to answer some of those questions. But no, in fact, John, I also wanted to mention, yeah, you said you want to maybe next week delve into your how to ask for money. I would say I guess I got some advice from one of the courses I had taken. I actually put together a notebook when I first was young and starting investments. I put a notebook together to explain who I was and what I did. And it was like a little portfolio. These are the properties that I, purchased and sold, and these are the ones I'm still holding, and just showing these, beautiful properties that I own now, and they talk about the wonderful cash flow that they have. And I use that as my introduction when if I go into a loan officer for the first time, and just as an introduction. And actually, what I did at once I was refinancing a loan through Commerce Bank, and the loan officer was so impressed. He says, "Would you mind if I borrowed this book to show to one of my other loan officers?" So I actually lent it to her. Well, yeah, that's okay. I'm not applying for any other loan for a while. I'm just doing this refinance. And she took it, and that loan officer then called me later, and he wanted to have lunch. He took me out to lunch, and I probably could have gotten a good line of credit from him, because they said, yeah, later on I might want to do a line of credit. But he was very impressed. He returned my notebook and took me out to lunch. He just wanted to talk to me. So I'm not sure if you've had a kind of experience, John, but that's what I've done to
Yeah, banks, that's the best way to do it, with banks and traditional lenders. The people that are that invest in other stuff, though, it's best to present your numbers and then what they're going to make, how long the money's going to be out. Then you show the property, then you show what you've done. I mean, there's kind of a sequence to do this. And yeah, it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, yeah, Carrie's not here today. She could shed more light on that. But yeah, there's plenty of money, though, is out there for every deal. It just has to be a deal, first of all.
Sure.
And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people really don't know, what a lot of good deals are. And that's something I've run into a lot with people, is how to know if it's a good deal.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, most people realize that investing in real estate is a good way of making money. It's been, most, I don't know what percentage, I think, like then they say like 80-90% of all millionaires or billionaires have made it in at least in part, gotten their money through real estate investing. But so they realize it, and that's why there's a lot of people that may not want to get their hands dirty and don't know how to get started, but they know that, yeah, okay, I can make a loan, and I can be investing in real estate by making a loan to a real estate investor. So yeah, if you know how to, like John said, you know how to approach people right, that have the money and want to invest in a good deal. You just have to show them that it is a good deal, and money will come.
Talking about not getting your hands dirty, we had that guy on, I don't know, last year sometime, from Ground Floor. And that's something where you just put money in and kind of watch it. Laura and I opened up a small account, and it's consistently paid over 10% on the people that funded it. I mean, it's really a pretty neat little thing. And I think you can start off with like $100, or maybe it's $10, something like that. But that's something we just threw some money at over the, and as they keep paying us off, it's like, I don't want my money back. Just keep, So we reinvest it and we go find more. And there's
Uh-huh.
been a couple of them. I've spread it out pretty thin. I think we had 20, maybe 18 or 20 different ones because I go look at the people, I look at the area, and then look at their track record a little bit. Of course, it's still a crapshoot because you don't know, I don't know people in South Carolina. I don't know who this rehabber is and things like that. But most of them are really good. I'd say probably 85% of them are really good. There's only been a couple that didn't work out well, but overall, they paid like 10.7% over the last 2 years, which was very interesting to me. So that's something,
Yeah.
if you don't want to get your hands dirty, you can sit and play around on those kind of sites. Passive income, I think, is one of the biggest lies in real estate, though, because nothing is truly passive. You always got to
Mhm.
do something, there are a couple other things that I think are kind of almost like myths or lies, and that's like turnkey property. There's never really a turnkey. And the other one's good renter in place. If it was a good renter, they wouldn't get
Oh,
rid of it
you
ever.
wouldn't be selling it if you had a good renter.
You just wouldn't do it. No, unless somebody died and it was somebody that's not in the business, a family member. But those three things you hear a lot. In fact, I started a file not too long ago on them just because I think it should be a joke. When people say that, you should just run, turn around and run from those deals. Turnkey property is one of the worst ones too, though. But passive income, people say that and use that term all the time. I have yet to see anything that's truly passive. I just have yet to see it. If there's something out there, let me know. But you're still going to have to get even ground floor. That's probably as close to passive as I've ever gotten. But you still got to go in there and do a little bit of research, and then you got to transfer money and you got to watch it. And there's stuff you got to do. I mean, people used to say, "Oh yeah, write a book and then you'll sit back and collect royalties." Doesn't work that way. No, that doesn't do anything for you. And that $3 to $6 you're going to make on a $20 book is not going to do anything for you. It's not going to change your life, and it's not passive. You don't take into consideration the 20 years it took to get that experience from all the failures and then putting it together and then organizing it. It's not nothing. I don't know. If you can tell me something passive, show me, I'm all ears.
Actually, say, John, that could be a topic for your next book, knowing when to run from a real estate deal.
Yeah, I'd still like to get stories together. We've kind of did that a little bit, but I
Mhm.
thought about this many years ago. It's just, I think we need to get stories from all our people in our group. And the name of the book could be something like, "So You Want to Be a Landlord, Huh?" I just thought that would be a good name.
Well, that's why I consider myself a property owner, not a landlord, since I have a property manager help me in all the respects that I don't want to deal with.
It's still not passive, though. You've still got to deal with your property, with her or whoever it is, and with all that stuff. It's not
I agree.
really passive.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. But that's a great way to do it. On the other hand, I mean, that's such a good point, Jim. I've done it both ways. And I think everybody should. If you're going to be in the business, you just need to understand both sides of it because there's good and bad about everything as far as that goes. But you're not going to just throw it with a property manager and forget it. Doesn't quite
That's
work
true.
like that either.
Very,
Mhm.
very true. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
There's
that's-
always going to be issues, and they're going to be contacting you when there's issues beyond the drippy faucet or the putting a new trap under the sink. No. Okay. Hey, we had some good discussions here this morning. And hopefully, I don't know if we answered James' question or not, but it was the only real question that came up. But no, and it sounds like, John, it could be a good topic to talk about what you need to do to how to find money. It'd be a good opening topic. I see Denise is definitely interested in that, she says. So.
Yeah, we'll talk about funding next week. It's kind of a I don't know how in between the year end here and in between the holidays. I don't know how many will have tune in. It doesn't really matter. We've had a lot of people talking about funding though, and that seems to be a big stumbling block people run into. And even if you get traditional funding, I know one of the things that until I got together with a medium-sized bank or a regional bank, that was one of the things we ran into. Once you get 5 loans, they're done with you, and they tell you can't get any more. Well, a regional bank, kind of like Carrie Kerry Kelsey, from New Frontier, and there's only a handful of them. They'll do stuff once you have, like you said, Lloyd, once you put your portfolio together and you have your track record, then they go by you, the person. But up until then, you may not, especially newer people, or even somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of properties, you may not have a way to prove yourself, and so you have to go by the value of the property. That's what the security is in. And so that's the way that a lot of people can ask for funding. Like when you're first getting started, or even if you only got a handful of properties, you may not be able to get more than 5 loans with the traditional financing, but there's plenty of money out there. And that's something we'll talk about more next week.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, if nobody else has anything. Any more questions for today? I think we can wrap it up for today. And like John said, maybe a small group next week, because I got a doctor's appointment next Friday, get my last year-end checkup. So I will not be here, but
Yeah,
John,
can John come over to my house and decorate for Christmas?
Laura can.
Oh, okay. Oh my. Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks.
yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, have a happy holiday.
Christmas, happy holidays.
Good seeing y'all.
Good seeing y'all. Bye.
All right, we'll see you next week.